Hey, Pete, you heard some of this conversation. You know what's going on now with the Broncos' offensive line. We know the Vikings have a pretty darn good pass rush. You played linebacker. When you hear stuff like this, are you salivating, even though you've been retired for a few years?
No, believe it or not, say what you want about your offensive line. Just thank God you don't have San Diego's. You talk about a disaster.
Yeah, you guys did a number on them last week.
Yeah, they were beat up. They were beat up coming into the game, and I think they left even worse. I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, Sambrailo is probably the only guy in the front that's visibly has some problems, some leverage problems. He gets pushed around a little bit, but if you can help one guy. When you have to help both him and maybe a Ryan Harris, which I don't think he needs as much help, then things are better. But Manning's not holding on to the ball for very long, and I don't know if it's a function of what he has or what's going on in front, or just that your receivers are so damn good after they catch the football. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting game. You guys are such a pass-heavy offense, and we are such a run-heavy offense, and it's going to be interesting to see which side prevails.
After the Broncos game against Detroit, Demaryius Thomas, the Broncos wide receiver, said, "Hey, the Detroit secondary was squatting on our routes real heavy," and Manning hit a long throw to Demaryius at the end of the first half, and then in the fourth quarter he had a long throw to Emmanuel Sanders. Both of those throws were less than perfect, but they got the job done with great catches. Should we expect the Vikings secondary to really press coverage, or is that fit their MO?
It'll probably a little bit of both. I think the success that we've had against let's face it, we've faced similar quarterbacks 3 weeks in a row between Stafford and then last week with San Diego. And just kind of three rather immobile quarterbacks, guys that don't run a lot. And you got to get pressure up the middle, and there's a lot of timing, and the Vikings defense did a good job of interrupting that timing with jamming guys at the line of scrimmage. And you mentioned Demaryius Thomas's catch. I mean, the corner, he squatted. He looked like he had his feet in concrete. It wasn't a double move. It wasn't anything. He just stopped because you get so used to seeing these guys run hitches and things like that, and and Manning doesn't throw the ball much more than 10 yards down the field, except in between the hashes or right around the hashes. But man, is he good at it? So, it's. I would think you're going to see a lot of the same. Harrison Smith will have to be very active. He's probably one of our better players. A complete safety, can run and hit and then turn defense into offense, blitz. He does everything. So. We'll see. It's gonna, like I said, it's a perfect test for us at this time. For our squad. For you guys being undefeated, I don't know if we're just going to be a speed bump or what, but the numbers are in your favor. They got you by 6.5 right now, so we'll have to see how it turns out.
He's Pete Bercich. He's the radio color analyst for the Vikes and a former Vikings linebacker, and all of our guests are brought to you by Papa John's. Hey, Pete. The Broncos, if I remember the numbers correctly, the Broncos are giving up 16.3 points a game. The Vikings are giving up 16.7 points a game. That's pretty darn close. People are calling the Broncos defense a great defense. Why aren't we calling the Vikings defense a great defense?
Well, I think it starts with, this is something when I was coaching. It didn't, as a player, it didn't matter, but when you're a coach, it matters. And that's just, the number one defense, it all goes by yards given up. And I think the other stat on the Bronco defense that's amazing that you don't hear a lot about is third down conversion, 18.8%.
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder you guys haven't given up a lot of yards, and no wonder, your time of possession is well below 30 minutes. It's because teams just don't convert third downs on you guys. And for a defense, it's impressive to see guys that are that fundamentally sound and guys that hustle the football. I mean, they work hard. And when they're not out there for 60-some snaps a game like we were against San Francisco, that helps quite a bit. The one question, if I can ask a question to you guys, what do you guys think of Malik Jackson? Because of the guys up front, he really stood out to me, at least last week against Detroit.
Ton of talent, Pete.
Yeah, of the three guys with their hand on the ground, he's the best player they have.
Yeah, I think they want to see a little more consistency. I think they want to see him bring it every play.
Right.
But he's got a ton of talent and a ton of potential.
Yeah, because he was an absolute headache for Detroit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a you have teams fumble 4 balls and you recovered all 4 of them. These are all those are all signs and things you look at. That the opponent quarterback rating of 58. I mean, there's a lot of numbers in this game. I think the one thing I think for the Vikings to be successful is that Adrian's going to have to get going. You guys, guys like DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller and the rest of those guys you have on the edges, you can't run away from them, so you have to run at them. And hopefully Adrian will be able to wear some of those guys out. And then Teddy Bridgewater is going to have to make plays with his legs. And I don't scrambling. I mean, scrambling to extend plays and get guys open down the field, because it's DB's best friend when a quarterback has about 2 seconds to throw the ball. Because you don't have to worry about covering the guy for too long.
I did like Bridgewater coming out of college. I liked him because he took a program that was less than elite. It was a solid program and made Louisville be able to compete against anybody in the country. But this is what I want to ask you. Where do you think he is in his progress? What's his strength? What's his weakness? And is he ready to win a big, fairly tough game on the road?
He's progressing well. I mean, they were hoping to let him sit out last year and kind of learn, but 4 games into it or so, he had to assume the starting position, and you could see him. What was nice is you see him make a mistake in a game, and then he could correct it by the end of the game. Of the 12 quarters we've seen him this year, I think he's played 6 good ones. I mean, San Francisco was a rough outing. It was for him. He had some opportunities early that we missed. His strengths, he's a leader. He's a young man. I think he's only 22 or 23 now. But the rest of the guys around him, even guys like Mike Wallace, refer to him as a leader. And he's very calm and cool and collected. And I think, that's one of his strengths. I think what hurts him is he gets away from his fundamentals. The interception he threw last week, he completely threw it off his back foot and just floated it up in the air. And he had a pass earlier that game on the first drive, right to Kyle Rudolph. That Kyle, I guess, lost it in the sun or whatever, because at the Goofy Stadium up there, we play at TCF, Bank Stadium, where the Gophers play, and it doesn't face north and south; it faces east and west, and so you get the sun in your face at different times of the day. And so, but Teddy's done real well. He hasn't, from a numbers standpoint, he looked pretty pedestrian. But for what they're asking him to do, I think he's executed it pretty well, and he's more mobile than you think. He's pretty fast, he's pretty cagey, and he's going to need every bit of that this Sunday afternoon, no question.
Hey, Pete, last thing before we let you go. We're sitting here in Denver, and I'm sure people all over the country are sitting here watching what's going on with this Ragnar character. And first of all, wondering who the hell is he to ask for $20,000 a game? And second of all, we're wondering, is this really a big loss? I mean, do the Vikings fans really get into it that much? This guy in horns and long blonde hair riding around on a motorcycle? I mean, seriously, is he going to be missed?
I've known Joe for a long time, and he's a great guy. And
yeah, but $20,000 a game, Pete?
Well, what he was looking at was you can look at what I do, calling games. If you do it for baseball, you make a lot more money than in football. But then again, you're calling 162 games a year, not 20. And I think he was comparing himself to like the Philly Fanatic or some of these other mascots out there that have to work 8-10 months of the year, and wanted to condense it into a 10 game season. So, do people care? I think so. He's been around forever. He's been.
Can't you get anybody to do that? Can't you get anybody to do that though? You put a wig on him and some horns and let him ride around.
I mean, I think we can let you do it for a game.
For $20,000, I'd do it naked. All right. Yeah, we were thinking.
$20,000. Yeah. Well, let me tell you this: for 20 grand a game, I'm going to go down there and do it. For God's sake.
My name is Ragnar.
You can't see this, Pete, but Mark Kiszla right now pulled out a blonde wig, and he's putting his fingers up, and he thinks he's Ragnar right now.
Give me a Harler and I'm there.
Yeah.
I'll do it for 10,000 a game.
Hey, Pete, really appreciate it.
You go to the school.
Hey,
Pardon me.
we really appreciate your time, and we'll come up and visit you in the Vikings radio booth, meet you, and thank you again.
All right, no problem, man. I look forward to seeing you guys.
All right, Pete Bercich, former
All right,
Vikings linebacker and radio color analyst. Hello.